Hi, my name is Pauline Kamwara. They also call me Paula the Queen Bee. Did you know that you can lease bees for pollination? I'll be sharing this and more. Here is my story. This journey started about 16 years ago. I started my journey working in a beekeeping company where I was employed as an admin, a finance person for attachment, and later on I was able to acquire employment in the same organization, which developed my interest in beekeeping because we are dealing in beekeeping. And through that I was able to gain the relevant training, taken out of the country to study some courses in beekeeping, and developed the interest further, which later on came into this. Apiculture Venture Limited is a Kenyan-owned company, local company, fully owned by women. And our aim, we have 3 approaches towards beekeeping. One of them is manufacturing of beekeeping equipment. Second of it is training people on modern beekeeping so that they can acquire the knowledge they require for beekeeping. And third is about pollinating crops. If we come to your farm, we are looking at building commercial pollination, which is something quite rare in this part of East Africa. It's something that is quite rare. So Apiculture Venture wants to go into it commercially, commercial pollination. We want to train people into beekeeping and of course produce the equipment. So if you get the equipment, you're trained. If you're trained, you're able to produce honey. If you produce the honey, we buy the honey. And through our commercial ventures for pollination, we're also able to keep bees in different parts of the country and thereby producing honey, which we eventually pack under our brand name, Golden Bee Honey. To shed more light on commercial beekeeping in terms of pollination, this is how we go about. I'll give you an example of an organization. We work with a company well known to Kenyans, the Bidco company. We are offering pollination services to the sunflower farms. Last year we did our major pollination service in Rongai, Nakuru. What we do is that we move in with colonized hives already. We go in, we set up the colonized hives. In an acre we need about 4 to 5 hives to pollinate sunflower. So we move in with hives that are already colonized. We pollinate the crops, the sunflower crops and soya beans in that particular farm. Then just when they're about to harvest, we move our hives away, of course to another site. Because we're into pollination services, we'll move to another site, probably a strawberry plantation, a canola plantation. It's quite challenging. We're not saying it's easy, it's quite challenging. You need expertise to come with it. You need transport to transport these bees. It's also a little bit dangerous transporting bees, but through our expertise, we're able to do this. That is one aspect. Another aspect is a farmer who is probably having an acre or 2 who wants to pollinate his crops for better yields. Of course, through pollination you get better yields and you get quality yields. So that's how beekeeping pollination, why it's really encouraged. And that is why Bidco is also partnering with farmers to come and work, get into contact with them to grow sunflower and soya beans. And then Apiculture Venture moves in with our beekeeping expertise, provide the technical know-how, provide the equipment, and then install the beehives in their sunflower and their soybeans farms to pollinate their crops, thereby getting better yields and higher yields. And these crops, once they harvest them, Bidco will definitely buy. So in this case, the hive is bought by the farmer. The hive is the farmer's property, not apiculture's property. What apiculture does is just that, train them, and then later on offer them market for the honey. So those are the 2 approaches we use in pollination, providing the equipment, which the farmer buys from us, and also bringing in our own equipment to pollinate the crops. Of course, if you're bringing in our own equipment, we have a minimum number of acres that you will come in with, nothing below 5 acres, because we're also looking at commercial viability. So if I'm to bring my hives, it has to be nothing below 25 hives and nothing below 5 acres to pollinate either soya or sunflower. The cost of commercial pollination is not quite high because we're trying to get many people to adapt commercial pollination. So a minimum of 25 hives that you move into into your farm to pollinate for a period of 3 months, we will charge every month 30,000 to pollinate your crops of 25 hives full of bees. So every month, 25 hives pollinating your crops is 30,000. So that is batch one. If you, of course, need more hives, we'll work out the costing, which goes, if you want 50, is 50,000. One of the value chains I'm working in is wax production. I'm encouraging my farmers to learn to process and produce and process the wax, because we buy the wax from farmers also. That is the wax we use to bait the beehives so that they can attract the bees. That is one of them. Another that you're also working on is the pollen. Still at its infancy stage, but you hope by the end of next year or by the end of this year or early next year, we should have picked it, because pollen is another very good product that is in demand in the market. Propolis, we're introducing propolis traps in our hives. That is another byproduct for the beehives. We would like, if you buy a beehive, I give you the propolis trap, you collect the propolis, and definitely Apiculture Venture is also providing market for the same propolis once you produce it. It's quite intensive because I need to train you on how to do it, how to collect it, but when it comes to processing, we do it. We buy it raw from the farmers. So those are the three major ones I'm actually working right now on: honey, wax, propolis, and pollen. Those are four, honey being the major and the other three being the other byproducts of the hive. To start a beekeeping venture, Apiculture Venture have tried to make it so seamless. And that's why we came up with a simple starter kit. A starter kit that if you walk in today, I can take you through the components of this starter kit. The cost is at a reduced price so that you're able to take it from a very cottage sort of industry back in your house to a commercial one in a few years. So this starter kit, we have two types of starter kits that we've come up with. We have the mega startup kit and the mini startup kit. The mega starter kit simply comprises of 10 beehives, 10 pole stands, a harvesting gear, the PPE that is involved in managing the beehives while in the apiary. These are the bee suits, the gumboots, the smokers, the hive tool, the bee brush, the torch, all the equipment needed to harvest. And then also in the same kit, there's a centrifuge machine. This centrifuge machine helps you in extracting your honey. Once you get your honey ready, you extract your honey using the centrifugal force. You just put the frames in the centrifuge machine, you extract the honey. In the mega kit, we are offering the stainless steel 2/4 extractor that is used to extract honey from the super boxes. We also have the mini starter kit for those who are still limited in resources. And this is a mini starter kit, is half of the mega starter kit, and it retails for 60,000, of course, with a few components not involved, but you're sure of getting 5 beehives, 5 pole stands, and all the protective gear, including the extractor, and you're good to go in your beekeeping journey. We've seen enough in the factory. You've seen how we manufacture the equipment. Now let's get to the ground to see how the beehives work and how the setup is done. First thing first, when you get to the site, the first thing you need to do is you need to gear up. You need to protect yourself. The PPEs in beekeeping is also just as important as in any other industry. As you can see, we are all dressed up, well protected, ready to handle the bees in a calm and a professional way. So in this site here, the first thing you do once you establish a site, once you've done a site survey, you set up the beehives. Very important for a setup to be in a way that you can handle the bees away from where people live, at least away from public amenities, 100 to 200 meters away from roads, public roads where people live, so that you minimize the risks of people being attacked by the bees. So in this site here, as you can see, we've used the pole stand and we've placed the brood box on the pole stand, and for securing it, we've tied it with a wire for security purposes so that the hive does not fall. This you will ask me, why is it just one box? This is the box we use to trap the colonies. This is where the queen bee lives. This is where she lays her eggs. So once it is colonized, that is when we come and place the super box, the chamber which we will produce the honey from. So from this setup here, this is a leased land in Isinya. So we talk to the owner of the land. He leases a space to us, which is paid in form of honey production. Whatever honey we produce, based on our agreement with the owner of the land, we will pay a particular percentage towards the use of the land. The particular owner of this land also has beehives. So he also benefits from us managing his beehives. In as much as he generates some income from the honey we produce in these hives, he will also generate income from the honey from his beehives that is installed in the farm that apiculture team manages. Such an arrangement is based on so many factors. One, security. Before we lease your land, is the security assured? Two, water availability. Is there water where the bees can drink from? Three, the forage. Where will the bees forage from? We don't just come to a site and set up the hives. So once a client or a farmer meets such criteria, we have a checklist that we go through. That's when we move in and set up such an arrangement as you can see behind me. What we've seen over the years, many beehives, or nearly all beehives in Kenya, are being made out of timber, wood, being the main raw product. Of course, it's not easy to get timber because we are cutting, we're trying to conserve the environment. So as beekeeping industry, we are thinking of how can we mitigate this? How can we help in probably planting more trees, or what other options are there for us to adopt? One, we are working with environmental conservations, where we are able to participate in tree planting in Karura and other areas, also just by getting the seed balls and encouraging many people to plant trees, which Apiculture Venture participates. And then the second option that you're also looking at is polystyrene hives. That is something that has not been adapted so well in Africa or even in Kenya, but is the new thing that we should be looking forward to or into to substitute timber. Though we've seen people doing, I think in Kakamega I saw a group trying to do concrete hives. I've got no true facts on how it's working. We've seen people doing out of plastic. I'm not sure how it's working, but for us as Apiculture Venture, we are just looking into polystyrene hives as a future thing to get engaged in, and also just participating more in tree planting and with other bee-friendly activities where you can hang the beehive. Instead of cutting down the trees, we hang the hives in terms of conserving the environment. Of course, any business where there are opportunities, there must be challenges. You cannot control what your neighbor is spraying on his or her crops. So pesticides is another challenge. We get our bees are dying. We get traces of these pesticides in our honey. So that's also another challenge, that if the government can also look into checking what sort of pesticides are they bee friendly, can they be used, can they be banned? Can farmers be banned from using such kind of pesticides that are affecting our bees, affecting our pollinators? So that is something that, of course, the government will have to look into. And another challenge that we faced recently, these are unforeseen circumstances that we really can't predict about it. The spraying of locusts, that was a challenge. Whatever spray they used definitely affected the bees. So you get most of the areas where this spraying took place, there's a bee decline. That's a challenge again. What can we do is for the private sector, who are the private farmers, the private beekeepers like Apiculture Venture, partnering with the government and letting them know how can we mitigate this challenge, how can we fight this problem of overspraying, aerospraying, so that our bees do not die. We need to save our pollinators. Yeah. One thing I'll tell you about beekeeping in Kenya is growing. It's gradually growing. All you're lacking is probably cooperation among the beekeeping members, the beekeeping companies, the cooperation that comes with it. But we are almost there with a platform that is engaging more beekeeping farmers right now. It's in early stages, but it's growing. It's called the Apiculture Platform of Kenya. So with this, we hope that the beekeeping industry will grow. The standards will be in place to check on quality of equipment that are being given to farmers, to check on the kind of honey that is being churned out, that is being brought out in the market for people to buy. And of course, this will be able to people to know who are the legit players in the market. Because again, if you don't have a platform, if you don't have a solid platform as beekeeping companies, as bee farmers, then anything will be brought out into the market and the quality will not be assured. So I can tell you the Apiculture Platform of Kenya, it's mandated to make sure that these standards are put in place and all the beekeeping companies and bee farmers adhere to the standards. When we talk about adulteration of honey, we find that currently in the market, there are so many brands of honey. There are so many people getting involved in this activity because many of them find it so quite lucrative, but they do not want to work towards it. So if you look at the kind of adulteration that is this market, what can the apex body of apiculture in Kenya do, is to set up standards to regulate what is being brought to the market, educate you and me about what is quality honey, what to look out for. And you as a consumer, I tell people, know your beekeeper, know your farmer, know your producer, know somebody who is accountable when you find this honey is not pure. People are buying honey with no, probably Kenya Bureau of Standards approval. Somebody just packs honey and brings it out in the market with a name, Baringo honey, Kitui honey, Machakos honey, simply because there's a myth going around that Kitui honey is the best, Machakos honey is the best, and because that's what you've heard, you'll buy the honey without really getting the background. What is the source of this honey? Who are the packers of this honey? Are they registered like producers of honey in the country? Are they registered companies that can be held accountable if this honey is not pure? So that is the only way you can know. It's simple. Know your beekeeper and you'll get pure honey. That is my story as a beekeeping entrepreneur. I hope you've learned something and it's been an inspiration to you. What's your story in your space? Share it.
And this is what we have lined up for you next week. We meet a sheep breeder who imports pedigree dopers from South Africa, the origin of the doper. It's a crossbreed between a Dorset horn and a blackhead Prussian sheep, hence the name doper. Before that story is up, hit the subscribe button and see you then.